No. All right, so our next week of the Logos Greek class, and first thing I wanted to do was pick up and correct something that I said last week. The wonderful thing about recording this is that I get to listen to every single mistake that I make.
And we didn't probably notice it.
You probably didn't. But yeah, there's lots of times I'll do this, and you guys need to catch me when I do this. When people ask me a question, I have the nasty habit of answering the question instead of trying to figure out why people are asking the question. And in a class like this, understanding where the question is coming from is usually more important. So last week we parsed and lexed 1 Thessalonians 5:16, and we found that it was always rejoice. And then one of you guys asked me, rejoice, you look up the definition and it says that it can be a greeting. Here we look at it and it says that it's in the plural. How can a greeting be in the plural? You guys remember that at all?
You're addressing more than one person?
And that was...
Is that what you said?
that actually isn't what I said. I got it completely wrong. I answered the question, how can a greeting be plural? And I said, well, we have that in English. We have, salutations and greetings to you. We say it like that. But that has nothing to do with why this is like this in the Greek. In the Greek, verbs have implied pronouns. That's where the second person plural comes from. So second person is not when you're talking about yourself, it's when you're talking to someone. So you.
Okay.
So I is first person, you is second person, they is third person.
Yes.
And so it's you, and then it's plural, so it's y'all.
Uh-huh.
The Greeks were Southerners when they're talking in plural.
That's exactly right. Yeah, I picked up on that.
You got it. Yeah, exactly right. So if I wanted to, I could say that that word, kairete, could be translated as you all rejoice, putting the implied pronouns in there. Okay, so we could, we'll scroll down here just a little bit. So that would be a perfectly okay way of translating it.
Y'all rejoice always.
Y'all rejoice.
You all rejoice always. You could translate it that way. However, in English we don't really talk like that, so we don't translate it that way. We just do it as rejoice always. But in the Greek there's these implied pronouns, and that's where that second person plural comes from. It's who it's being addressed to. And I was talking about how greetings can be plural, which had nothing to do with what was actually on the screen. So I apologize for that.
That was plural.
It's the audience that was plural, exactly.
Okay, I'm confused.
All right, so parsing code said second person plural, right?
Yeah.
Okay, second person plural. Okay, got it.
Okay, and second person is you, plural is all.
Uh-huh.
So it's talking to you all and telling them to rejoice. So you all rejoice. You all rejoice always.
Plural as in more than one person rejoice.
Yeah.
Not more than one rejoices.
Ah, there we go. Okay. So
Talking
I
to
thought-
you all, telling you to rejoice all the time.
Okay, so I just have to rejoice, so it means y'all rejoice. Right?
Plural.
Because it's second person plural, you don't have to put that in there. It's an implied pronoun. We usually don't translate the implied pronouns.
And that's what the second person plural is.
Yes, it's
Okay.
the implied pronoun.
So it would be like in a parentheses.
Kind of like, yeah.
Yeah.
Or you can turn it into a vocative, which is what I did here. But you guys don't know what a vocative is, so don't worry about it.
So, y'all. Plural. There we go.
Y'all rejoice always.
Y'all rejoice.
But we don't talk like that in English unless you're from Arkansas, but that's a whole nother story.
Well, that's how holy fuck 'em.
Well, you find you all in the Bible all the time.
You all.
Y'all.
Yeah, I pointed out in class several times. Y'all. Yeah.
There you go. All right, now let's go ahead and get into the actual lesson. So thank you for letting me correct that. It has to do with the implied pronouns. I answered the question. I didn't answer where the question came from, so I'm sorry for that. If you guys catch me doing that, please call me on it.
You might not know.
We'll be on top of that.
And this is why I record all the sessions, so that I can listen back through it and figure out what was going on, because in the moment, I have to admit, sometimes I'm terrible at that. So I apologize. All right, so this week we are going to start off with a quiz. So your first sheet for week 2, your week 2 sheet should have quiz lines at the top.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah. Now, with the quizzes, they are open book, open notes. The only thing is that you cannot talk to another person during them. Okay. Now, these are not going to be put in a grade book anywhere. The State Board of Education does not care what score you guys get in this class. So this is for you to check and see where you are. So don't talk to each other about it. Using the resources you have in front of you, your books, and what you've learned so far, try to figure it out. No. Okay, within your own material. I'm going to have to get out the little dividers and separate you guys out.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, we'll get it.
All right. So the score that you're hoping to get on this one is 3 out of 4, and there is a bonus question, so use it.
Ooh, that's something. That's-
There are always those students who will say the quiz words and their answers out loud. Don't do that. All right, so just so that I have something to say while you guys are doing that, I'm going to go ahead and read them. First question. What are the 2 attitudes with which we should study?
So you don't want me to say it out loud?
No. Your options are A, humility and patience. Just write the letter of the answer. You don't have to write out the whole answer. Okay. Is it A, humility and patience, B, meekness and caution, or C, love and hope? A, B, or C. And this is where some students say, they lick their finger, hold it up to the wind, and say, it feels like a C that kind of day.
Oh, no. I did that.
I homeschooled a couple of girls that could see on everything because they get it half the time or so they thought.
Yeah, my students absolutely hated me because a lot of times when I did multiple choice, I did it clear like out to K. Yeah, that whole guessing out of 1 out of 4 thing just doesn't really work anymore when you do it like that.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then they started saying, Mr. Johnson, can we do short answer instead of multiple choice? I was like, yes, I would love to do that.
Yeah, really.
Right. And then question 2. What mainly determines what a given Koine word means? A, the lexicon. B, the wonderful textbooks that we all have. C, the context. Or D, the sermon. All right, and then number 3, parse the following parsing code. P period G. Is it A, passive period grammar, B, participle period gerund, or C, preposition period genitive?
I'm still working on number 2.
Still working on number 2? Well, I can read them faster than you. Go figure, right?
Is this in our stuff? Is there an answer in our stuff?
Yeah, we studied it all last week. We're all stuck on number 2, it seems. Is that accurate? We're still looking that up?
Yeah.
I will give you a hint on number 2. We actually said that there were 3 rules of interpretation. They just kind of happen to be exactly the same.
Oh, there we go. I found it. I got it. Okay. Now we're going to parse something.
Yep. Parse the following parsing code. P period G. I was also meeting with multiple choice. I'd have some of the answers be worth negative points. Students really didn't like that. Because sometimes I would make all of the C's like Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck and things like that. And if they picked those, I would take off a point instead of just leaving it 0. If you pick this in a math class, you are stupid. I didn't say it quite like that, but
Like those students who the question was, what qualifications did Lewis and Clark have to be, the leaders of the Corps of Discovery? Oh, they were nice.
they were nice. Lewis and Clark were qualified by being nice.
Saying seriously, we spent 6 weeks on that.
And these kids will grow up to
I needed
vote.
questions the day before the test. Here's what you need to know for tomorrow. They were nice.
Sorry.
You and I are going to be good friends by the end of this semester, let me tell you.
Suck it up. I gotta figure out.
All right. And then which word is defined as a word or phrase that is thrown into a conversation to exclaim about something? I love that one. A, interjection, B, particle, C, conjunction, or D, preposition.
Oh, I'll go to my little chart here.
Yep.
I am not the brightest bulb in the batch.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah, a lot of my students would say, "Oh, Mr. Johnson, we only have a 5-question quiz. That's great." It's like, you haven't read my quizzes, have you? They'll still challenge you, I guarantee it.
Oh, that one was easy. That was almost right over. Yeah.
Then the bonus question.
Yeah.
Those letters transliterate which English word of them?
Where do we find that one?
That's what I'm looking for.
That was from this week's material, from the reading material. That's why this is a bonus.
From this.
All right.
So yeah, you go through the Greek alphabet, you try to figure out the sounds, put it together, and say, what word does this sound out?
Okay.
My line is too little.
These are Greek symbols.
Yeah, these are Greek letters.
Okay.
And you're going to use them to sound it out and try to figure out what English word they are sounding out.
Okay.
Do. And for you people who are listening online, this is another one of those super exciting moments, let me tell you. Watching people write down letters, and then another letter, and then another letter. This is the exciting life that is learning another language. Discovering new things every single moment, and then banging your head against a wall, the others. I guarantee they do.
Did you make it different than they make it, maybe? Oh, there we go.
There you go. See? It is there. I did throw some capitals in with lower cases.
Yeah,
I just
being
found
tricky.
out.
Yep, I did. I know. Because, you know, there are 2 cases. Well, at least in Greek as we study it, there's 2 cases. And the old form of Greek was all capitals, though. But you don't want that because that was very awkward to read. Very, very awkward to read.
What are they trying to say?
Yeah, what English word would you pronounce if you pronounce all the Greek symbols?
Okay, so let me get back to.
In this big line, I don't find that curly thing.
There are a few curly things in Greek.
There's that little, looks like an and sign, but it's not quite closed up, so it could be an A.
You mean this? That one right
Yeah, that one right there.
there? Probably be a little bit more familiar if I did it like that.
Oh. Oh, there's. Oh, there it is.
Yep, yep, yep. Remember, the bonus is a bonus for a reason. You don't have to get it. Hence, bonus.
Okay, I'm gonna try.
And then there are some people with stubbornness issues. I sympathize.
Oh, let me try that one again.
It's a, what?
Do. Yeah, I'm not sure how this is from the online point of view, because they look at it and it's like, we've been on this quiz. Hopefully they're actually going through the material on their side too. I hope. Otherwise they're going to be staring at one screen for a while.
Oh, I know what it is. Write it down, right?
Yep, write it down. Yeah, this is the only one that's a short answer. No multiple choice on that one.
I think I'm right, but
I didn't make a word out of it. I must have a letter wrong.
All right, I'll give you guys one more minute, and then we will grade this thing. See how we did. Did we do what we didn't do? Did we do well?
Yeah. Now,
with number 5,
Mm-hmm.
does that work all the time?
With number 5, does it work all the time?
Uh-huh. When you see those, the Greek things, and then you convert them to our alphabet, does it work all the time for the words?
Not entirely, but the nice thing about Koine Greek as we're learning it is that it is a purely phonetic language, so how it looks will be how it sounds, once you figure out what the letter sounds are.
Okay, so if we've got the sound down, we've got a pretty good idea then?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. All right, about 30 seconds left. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, let's try and see how we did here. Grade your own. Okay, no one else needs to know how well you did or didn't. This is your personal learning here. Like I said, the State Board of Education will not care how you did. I will not care how you did. I mean, I want you to learn, but as far as giving a discrete grade on it, I don't really care. But you are shooting for 3 out of 4 to be considered passing on this quiz. So that's what we're shooting for. All right, first question. What are the 2 attitudes with which we should study? The answer was humility and patience. That's what we discussed last time. Meekness and caution wouldn't be bad. Those are good attitudes to have, but they're not the ones that we discussed last week. If you say love and hope, I'm going to be a little concerned for you. I just really loved it, and therefore I did a good job. Hoping that it's right. I know a lot of students who do it that way, but that's not necessarily good. All right, so it's supposed to be A, humility and patience. All right, 2, what mainly determines what a given Koine word means? And this is the one that we hit last time, actually a few different times, but sometimes people don't remember it. We said that the 3 rules of interpretation are context, context, and context. Now, if you say something like the lexicon or the textbooks, you wouldn't be entirely wrong because we're using that to get stuff. Still not what we said last time, but I can understand that. Now, if you say the sermon, I'm really concerned about. You know, there's this one sermon that I wanted to preach, and the definition that fit that one, that's the one I went with. Yeah. Don't do that. Please don't do that, okay? This is like one that if I was doing my math class, these are the ones that would be in the negative category. You know, if you say love and hope, I'm taking away a point for that. If you say the sermon, I'm taking away a point for that. All right, now, parse the following parsing code. P.G. The answer to that one was C, preposition genitive. Now, on the first one, A, passive grammar. Grammar was not an option on Mounce's code, so that wouldn't work. And then gerund was not an option on Mounce's code, so that wouldn't work either. So this one, if you wanted to, you could have just gone through Mounce's little chart there and said, it's not on the list, I'm good. It's not one of those. I was trying to be nice there, but not everybody sees it, so sometimes you try to be nice, and then the students look at it and it's like, I still didn't get it. It's like, okay, I tried, it didn't work. And then 4, which word is defined as a word or phrase that is thrown into a conversation to exclaim about something? This came from your word list. And the word list I gave you in the prefatory material. And the word that was defined that way was the interjection. Okay, technically speaking, particle actually would not have been bad because technically speaking, interjections fall under particles. It would not be a conjunction though, and it would not be a preposition. All right, and then the bonus question. It was birthday.
Oh. What did we do? Hang on.
Birthday, birthday, birthday. Beta, epsilon, rho, theta, delta, eta. Birthday. Birthday.
It's not enough letters there.
It's the sound, it's not the letters.
It's phonetics.
Yeah, it's how the word sounds, not how it's spelled.
Table ends. Birthday.
It is birthday.
And that's okay, 'cause it's just a bonus one. Yeah.
All right.
I didn't get it.
That's why it was a bonus.
That's right.
All right, so now that we've taken the quiz, you have your score. Do you guys have questions for me?
How do you pronounce that word then? That
Birthday.
No, it's How
word? How do you pronounce it in Greek?
Birthday.
Birthday?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that's the word it's transliterating.
Oh.
You would say it exactly the same in Greek as in English.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, that doesn't mean that you can say this word to a person who speaks Greek and they'll understand it as birthday. This is the English word transliterated into Greek letters so that it would pronounce the same way.
Okay.
It doesn't mean the same thing though. To them it would just be gibberish.
Okay, so how do you pronounce birthday in Greek?
That I actually do not know. It does not really show up in the New Testament, people talking about their birthdays.
Okay,
and we celebrated Paul's birthday yesterday, and it was a great time. And yeah, that doesn't really show up in the New Testament.
Okay. I wanted to know how to say birthday in Greek.
Now, you know how to say English birthday with Greek letters.
Okay, there you go.
All right, any questions about the quiz? Any questions at all?
It was fair.
It was fair. We had technically all of the material.
We did.
Technically.
Yeah, number 2 was the one that had me perplexed until you said, yeah, we said it 3 times. I was like, oh yeah, now I know, now I
Yep.
remember. So, otherwise.
All right. Are we ready to move on?
Sure.
Okay. Mac, are you ready to move on?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, moving on then. We've taken our quiz, we beat ourselves up. Time to move on to new things. All right, today we're mostly going to be focusing on the alphabet and being able to read Greek, but I will want to caution you that reading is not the same thing as understanding. Okay, you will be able to read Greek at the end of this class. That's a long way from understanding it though. Just because you can pronounce the words on the page does not mean that you understand what they mean, but you will be able to pronounce the words on the page.
Just have to figure out what we're saying.
Pretty much, yeah. So this is what grants us access into the New Testament text. This is probably the course that, as far as, you know, importance, as far as just being able to do anything later on, this one is kind of the gatekeeper. If you can't get the alphabet, the rest of the classes are not going to be very useful. So we have to get this one way or the other. All right, so we're going to do the alphabet, then we're going to do the rough breathing and punctuation marks. That is a really long title. That section is actually really short, but it's a really long title. Then we're going to go over the Greek diphthongs, and then Greek syllabification. Then we'll have a little translation task. It'll only be 3 words, so don't freak out. But a little translation task at the end. First, the Greek alphabet. When I do the Greek alphabet, I like to break it down a little bit, but before we break it down, let's talk about what we have overall. The Greek alphabet is composed of 24 letters. And when I say that, I mean 24 proper letters. There are actually more sounds than that, like with any language. One letter will usually make multiple sounds, but letters that you'll see on the page, there'll be 24. Of those, 7 are considered to be proper vowels. So Greek has a few more vowels than in English, over less words total, so it tends to be more vowel-centric than English is. English is a little bit more of a Northern European language, so it tends to be more consonant-centric. Greek is Southern European, so it's going to be more vowel-centric. So and another thing that tends to be the case with Southern European languages is that the words tend to be longer. There's more syllables in them, and that's just normal for Greek. In Greek, it's not uncommon to have words that are 3, 5, 7 syllables long. It's just the way it is. Yeah. In English, we like to have our words nice and really short. Most of the things that we say in normal conversation, 1 syllable, 2 syllables, 3 is like, that's a long word right there. But in Greek, that's nothing. They like to have lots of syllables. The pronunciation that we will be learning is called the Erasmian pronunciation. It's named for a guy by the name of Erasmus, as you might guess, and it is the standard in biblical studies. It probably isn't historically accurate. In fact, we pretty much know that it isn't historically accurate, but it was developed for biblical studies because it allows us to differentiate between certain keywords. And if you go into an academic setting, read scholarly work on it, this is the pronunciation system that they're going to use. It's not the same as modern Greek. If you know modern Greek, it will completely mess you up, and if you try to take this into modern Greece, they're just going to look at you really weird, like, what on earth are you saying? Because all the vowels are going to be different and all those kinds of things. But in scholarly work, this is how they do it.
Okay, so I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
If it probably isn't historically accurate, how do we accurately translate it then?
Okay, this is the pronunciation system that we're talking about.
Oh, okay.
They probably didn't pronounce it like we will pronounce it.
I see.
Okay. But it's a dead language, so nobody really knows exactly how they pronounced it anyways. So you have to pick something.
They didn't leave any tapes behind.
Yeah, they didn't leave any tapes behind letting us know how they said things. Yeah. So the options is either going with the modern Greek pronunciations, but those don't allow you to differentiate between keywords that show up in the New Testament. So we're going to pick the one that allows you to actually differentiate keywords. And for those of you who don't know who Erasmus was, he was a major figure in bringing the Greek New Testament into the modern age. Erasmus was a Roman Catholic priest who was very much a devout son of the Roman Catholic Church, but at the same time, he probably got about as close as you could to someone who hated the church but loved it at the same time. He's kind of a weird guy that way. He would make fun of certain things that Catholics would do, but at the same time, he defended a lot of Catholic beliefs as well. So, for example, he wrote a book on transubstantiation in the Mass, the idea that the bread and the cup become the literal body and blood of Jesus when you take them. He wrote a work in defense of that. But he also is the one who provided us with our first printed and published Greek New Testaments. And because he was the first one into the field, a lot of the stuff that he started, including his pronunciation system, we're still left with today. Right, so any questions on that stuff?
So he's noted positively for having the printed Greek New Testament.
Yeah, printed and published Greek New Testament. He was a critic of Roman Catholicism while still being a loyal Roman Catholic. It was an interesting time to be a Roman Catholic in those days. All right, are we done writing on this slide?
No, I haven't written anything on that slide yet.
This is true. Okay, writing on your papers for the points that correspond to the slide, for those students that are particular. Yeah. All right. First 4 letters. Like I said, I like to break the alphabet down. I'm going to break it down into sets of 4. The first 4 letters we're going to call the primaries. It's mostly just an arbitrary term, so they have something to write down, but we're going to call them the primaries. All right. All right, so let's go ahead and try to get an idea of the words and the sounds. The first one is alpha, and it sounds like the ah in father. Alpha. Alpha. Alpha.
It's all.
Yeah, alpha.
Alpha is alpha.
Alpha, yeah. There is no ah sound in Greek. So they can't say hat or cat or anything like that. There is no ah. It's ah. Ah. Yeah, ah. Alpha.
Alpha. Oh, I forgot the L.
Yeah, alpha. And then the next letter, and actually I'll go ahead and see if I can write this on here. So alpha, to make a lowercase 1, which is the one that you'd make most of the time, it's basically a little fish shape. That's a lowercase alpha. Make the little fish, you've made alpha.
Okay, and that's the lowercase.
Yep. Yeah, and the capital is just a normal A like we would write it. It's not that big of a deal.
So that is lowercase.
Yep.
Alpha. Alpha. So it's not alpha like we pronounce it. It's
No.
alpha.
Yeah,
Okay.
alpha.
Alpha.
Yeah, father. Alpha.
Alpha.
Awfully confusing.
You are right. Yeah, when I was first going through this, it's like, because I had memorized the Greek alphabet, or at least parts of it, for studying math. And I learned the modern pronunciation system that is usually used in math class, and they always say alpha. And so I got into this and started going through, it's like, no one's saying it like I am. What's wrong? It's because it's an entirely different pronunciation system, especially when it comes to the vowels. So, yeah, alpha. And then the next letter is be with a long A sound, beta. Beta.
Beta.
Beta. Like the B in Bible.
Beta.
Yeah. And the lowercase b actually has a hanging tail on it. And then 2 bumps like you would normally have on B. Yeah,
So-
it's a B with a tail.
Because I noticed you've got like a lowercase a over there for alpha.
It's not quite a lowercase
Only
a, it's
because-
basically a fish shape.
No, in your printed stuff, you've got a capital A,
Mm-hmm.
and then you've got what to me looks like,
And it is
but
because
may
of-
I, okay.
Yeah.
We'll
Well,
look at it a little differently.
yeah.
Okay.
It would look more like what he actually
Yeah.
wrote it. It's just that we don't have. You probably don't have the actual Greek alphabet in.
Well, no, this is the Greek alphabet
Oh,
on
okay.
it.
So-
It's just that from a distance, people have a hard time differentiating
I
it.
see what you're
But yeah, it's actually more of a fish shape.
Okay.
All right, and then the third letter is gamma, and gamma is a word that has a few different pronunciations, 2 main pronunciations. Normally it'll sound like the G in gone, so gamma, but if it is followed by something that has basically a hard C sound in it, or another gamma, so gamma, kappa, ki, C, you'll learn how to pronounce them later. But if it's pronounced something that has a hard C sound following it, or another gamma, then it sounds like the N in angel.
Oh my God.
So what?
Okay, so normally the G in gone.
Uh-huh.
If it's followed by any of these other letters, though, it's the N in angel.
Ooh, okay.
So, that would be none. N-O-N-E, if it was followed by.
No, it'd be-
If it was followed by another one, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it'd be none instead of gone.
Okay, so if those letters come after it.
Yep.
Okay.
Followed by like C and G, or C and J. But if a word in English ends with a G, well, I can say it. If it's followed by a G, it has a J sound.
Yes. Okay. This has
would
an
be
N
an N sound. I mean, it's the same kind of rule, just
a different sound.
Right. And then lowercase gamma has a curve below the line, and then it comes up straight. Curve below the line, comes up straight. Yeah. Looks kind of like a Y, but it's not.
Okay, there we go.
And I apologize for how poor the writing is on here. Writing on computer screen is not always that easy. All right, and then after gamma is delta. And it sounds like the D in dog, and it's very consistent across the board. To write it, you basically make a little tail up at the top, and then you're rounded out to a D. So it's a tail, and comes down to what would basically be a normal D. Delta. Delta.
So it's just a fancy D.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Fancy D. All right, now this is the fun and somewhat amusing part of it. You guys get to hear me sing, because if you don't actually sing it, you usually don't remember it. So I get to thoroughly embarrass myself. Everyone online, you are going to be in for a treat, let me tell you. Not really, but yeah. All right, so to remember these, we'd say alpha, beta, gamma, delta. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta.
Beta, gamma, delta.
Alpha, beta, gamma, delta.
Delta.
Okay.
All right, now let's go ahead and try to pronounce some words. Now these are going to be English words, but we're using the Greek alphabet on them. So these will be familiar English words, but with the Greek alphabet. Our first word is beta, alpha, gamma. Pronouncing it out, it would be b, a, g. B, a, g. So what English word is that?
Bug?
No,
Bog.
bog.
Oh, bog. Okay.
You know, like a swamp?
So you wouldn't say the whole alpha, beta, gamma when you were pronouncing B-A-Y.
Nope. It would be, well, yeah.
It's just the letter.
It's just
B,
the sound.
Letter A
Sound.
and the letter Y.
Gamma. Yeah. Yeah.
So you'd only do the first sound of each of those letters to put them together.
Yep.
Okay.
Beta has a b sound. Alpha has an a sound. Gamma has a g sound. So b, a, g. Bog.
Yep, I'm bogged.
Bog.
Good.
Yep. B, a, g. Bog. There you go. You've pronounced your first, well, not really Greek word, but English word in Greek. All right, second word. You have a capital gamma. It's the one that looks kind of like the little hangman thing. Capital gamma, lowercase alpha, and lowercase delta. So, g, a, d. G, a, d. Yeah, God.
I was like, I know that one.
Now, this is actually kind of the fun part for me for the Greek alphabet, is trying to figure out how to take English words and put Greek letters on them. That one's kind of fun, because I'm weird that way, but you know.
So the name of the letter is alpha.
Alpha.
Alpha. But when you're putting it in a word, it's just the a.
Just the ah sound. Just the ah in father, the b in Bible, the g in gone, the d in dog.
Okay.
Duh.
Or that too.
Exactly. I haven't seen that forever.
Yeah.
I know.
You know, until I started going through and trying to learn another language like Greek and whatnot, you know, you always look on little kids learning the alphabet and it's like, it's so simple, guys. It's just the alphabet. And then you try to learn another alphabet and you're sitting there going through it. It's not so easy. It's a struggle for these kids.
Well, it's easier for them because they're actually speaking the language.
It does help,
We are
yeah.
not actually speaking the language
Yes.
per se.
Yes.
Per se.
I'm not going to go around and start speaking Greek.
Although that would be interesting if you did.
It would be very interesting.
Yeah, we have to learn it really good and then come to church after we learn it really good and only speaking Greek.
This sounds just like some of those mechanics or drivers that are working over there.
They got the syllables down.
I can speak them
Yeah.
with a breeze too.
There you go. You'll know what they're saying.
Translate this.
All right, so that's the first four. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta. Yay.
Yeah, we'll get up there and do that.
Yeah.
We could sing that Sunday morning.
This is what we learned last week. We've got a special song to sing for everyone.
Our trio's gonna sing for you this morning. Okay.
There you go. All right, next slide. These ones are the epsietas. Epsietas. And they're actually pretty straightforward, except for eta. That one's just weird, but most of them are pretty straightforward. First one is epsilon. Epsilon, and it sounds like the E in met, so it's basically just a normal lowercase e sound. Yep. Yep, epsilon. Epsilon. capital epsilon is a little bit different. If you look at modern Greek and most modern printed text, like the interlinear that you guys have, we'll use the modern version. It's just a capital E.
That red one?
No,
Oh.
just a regular capital E for modern.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
The red one on the screen here, that is how it shows up in the ancient texts. It'll show up basically like a C with a little line in it. And that will be capital epsilon there. Just in case you ever happen to be, you know, holding an ancient manuscript in your hand and you want to know what letter it is, you know, just in case.
I might do that.
What's
Maybe.
your Codex Sinaiticus? Is it in Greek?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, so it has it in there.
You guys haven't seen this Codex Sinaiticus, have you?
I can't even pronounce it. No, I have not.
You'll have to bring it one of these days.
But it's heavy
I
and big.
know. He's got a copy of the Codex Sinaiticus, just so you know.
All right, so that's epsilon. And then the next letter is zeta. Well, actually, before I go on to the next one, let's make sure we can write it. So epsilon is basically like a backwards 3 for the lowercase. So all that time you spent learning how to make your 3's correctly is totally wasted now. Yeah, backwards 3. The next letter after that is Z with a long A sound, zeta. Zeta. And it sounds like the Z in days. So zeta, Z. Z. Zeta, Z. And it is kind of a strange one to write. You have a little curl, basically a C shape, and then a part that hangs after the line. So curl, down, hang after the line. You don't usually make the curl that big though, sorry. So curl, and then hang after the line. And that is the lowercase zeta. The capital zeta is not too bad. Most people can get that one, but lowercase zeta is a little weird. So curl, C, hang out below the line. All right, and then this one is one that confuses everybody because of how Greek diacritics work. This one is eta, and it sounds like the E in obey, which is actually a long A sound. Yep, eta. Eta. And the thing that always messes people up is they'll get a text that will transliterate the Greek words into English, and when it comes to eta, it will have E with an overbar. It'll have that in the text. And people will go through it and they'll try to pronounce it as a long E, because that's what it normally means in English, right? The only problem is that Greek diacritics don't work like English diacritics do. That is a long A sound in Greek diacritics. So this is the one you want, long A. Long A, long A, long A, long A, long A.
You see the basic English long E is long A in Greek, right?
Exactly, yeah. It's eta, not eta, eta. And then to write that one, have a little hook down, then it comes down below the line, and usually has a little tail.
It's like an N.
It's kind of like an N that falls below the line. Eta. Let's see if I can put it over here. Eta. Put one right there.
There.
All right. So we have epsilon, zeta, eta, and then last but not least is theta. And theta sounds like the TH in thing. Do you remember the Addams Family with Thing running around? Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Yep. Thing is back, except he's Greek now.
Well, the way he talks, I can't understand it either. So might as well be Greek.
No, that was cousin It's.
That was cousin It.
Yeah, Thing never spoke. Thing was a hand.
It was a hand.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Gotta get your fictional characters right here.
Straight here.
Exactly.
Fictional?
Well, for some people.
You know, Donna pulled out a restaurant where we was talking about Santa Claus. Somebody said, oh, you know, Santa Claus did. And she blared it out. Santa Claus is dead! I mean, the whole restaurant.
Funny.
Fun. All right, and making a lowercase theta isn't too bad. It's basically an O with a horizontal line through it.
Theta.
Yep, theta. Theta. And as before, you guys get to hear me sing. Epsilon, zeta, eta, theta.
Oh, that's good. Epsilon, theta,
No.
theta.
Epsilon, zeta, eta,
Oh,
theta.
sorry. Epsilon, theta, theta. That one I can't
That's
sing.
tongue twisty.
Yeah.
It's a little tongue twisty. Epsilon, zeta, eta, theta.
Zeta, eta, theta.
Zeta, theta, theta. Zeta, theta,
This is the second verse.
Okay.
theta, theta.
Epsilon, zeta, eta, theta.
Not quite.
Okay.
Epsilon.
Epsilon, zeta, eta, theta.
Zeta, eta, theta.
There you go.
Epsilon, eta, zeta, eta, theta.
Okay. Go.
Why can't they speak English? What's wrong with
It would make it so much easier, right? Yeah. Except the English didn't exist at that time, but hey.
Well, that's okay, they can learn.
It's great for a reason.
Hey, Paul, would you mind coming back and writing that in
There
English?
you go.
Uh-huh. We could make some really interesting theology with that one. All right. Now we have some new words to pronounce. First word is delta, epsilon, theta.
Death.
Yeah. Death. Death.
Only we.
Death.
Yeah.
We
A little grim for a Greek class, but you know.
Yeah.
I had to have something that was relatively short that we could do with the words, the letters that we had so far.
So we're finding these letters in, oh, you told us what it meant.
Yes.
I'm told you how it sounds.
You how it sounds. It's
Yep.
death.
It sounds like the English word death.
Okay.
Yep,
Is that the right word then?
no, it's not the same.
Huh?
Yeah, that's the right word. That's the English word that it's transliterating.
Okay, good. So I will put the right thing down. Okay. That made me get one thing.
Th. Death. Death.
See, that one I guess birthday was still out there, but this one, okay, I can get this.
All right, and then the next word is delta, eta, zeta. Delta, eta, zeta.
Okay.
D-A-Z. D-A-Z.
Like days,
Like day, Y.
Oh, that
You could do
that
that.
day.
Well, actually, it could be either one because they sound the same in English,
I
right?
know, I was going to say.
So, yeah, if you wanted to, you could make a good argument for it being
Days of the week.
days of the week, yes.
That's what I was thinking was days of the week. Because you already
Yeah.
had days, so I thought you were
Yeah.
going to do the other one.
Now, and that's the thing, it sounds exactly the same in English, so it's going to be written the same way in Greek. Greek is very phonetic.
So you'll get a meeting from the context.
Exactly. Yep.
Kind of like your
All right. We are done with the epsietas. Are you guys done writing on that one?
So why are they called epsiatus?
Well, that's an arbitrary name, but basically it starts with epsilon, and all the other ones basically have some form of eta in them. Zeta, eta, theta.
Oh,
So it starts with epsilon, and everything has an A in it.
it does. Okay.
All right. I love the name of this category. These are the skip J's.
Okay.
Want to guess why they're called the skip J's?
They skip the J's?
They
don't
skip a
say
J.
J.
They don't have J in Greek.
Oh.
So it goes from what would be the English I to K, and there's no J. So that's why it's called the skip J's.
Well, that's just clever.
That's kind of funny.
Skip J's.
All right, so the first one is also the most complicated one, is iota. Iota. Iota.
Intrigue.
E-O.
But you don't say intrigue.
You say intrigue.
Just this short I. They could have used a different word.
No.
There's a lot of words that use the I that
But
means
you
the-
say iota, but
Mhm.
in their thing it's,
Intrigue.
yeah.
Oh, there's two I's.
There's two I's.
Ah.
That's why iota is kind of a nasty one, because it has two main sounds and then a third sound that shows up too.
Oh.
Iota. So it can sound like a short I,
Uh-huh.
or it can sound like a long E.
Okay.
It sounds too much like English.
Okay, so it can be a short I.
Like the I in intrigue, or it can be the E sound in intrigue.
And how do you know?
That is a good question. If it's long, that's going to be because it is at the end of a word, or it is followed by another vowel.
Okay, I need to back up.
Long if at end of word. Or followed by a vowel.
Yeah. In this case, iota, it's followed by another vowel sound, the O. So that's what makes it the long E sound. So it's iota.
E-O together, adjacent vowels.
Yep.
We teach it as one vowel sound in English.
Yep.
That's okay. So you have create, and it's two vowels. Okay. E-O-T-A.
Yep. So if you have two vowels next to each other and the first one is iota, it will be a long E sound. Or if iota occurs at the end of the word, it will be the long E sound as well.
Okay, I need to back up. Okay. I'm confused. I'm totally confused now. E,
You got two vowels together.
O, ta.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
First
It will normally sound like the first I in intrigue.
Okay. That is your main
Yeah.
sound,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm. But it will take on the long form if it is at the end of a word or if it's followed by another vowel sound.
Okay. So which one is, okay, iota, intrigue is the main sound, right?
The first I in intrigue is the normal one that it sounds like. It's normally a short I sound.
That's a short one. There we go. That's what I was missing.
Yeah.
Short.
But in the name of the letter itself, it's long.
In the name it's long, but
Normally it's short.
Normally it will be short.
Yeah.
Okay, short sound, which is normal.
Yeah. And then there's a third sound that it makes, and that's when you throw in a name that is Hebrew. Hebrew, when they would transliterate the Hebrew names into Greek, they would often start them out with iota, but it would have a Y sound, like in yummy. So for example, the name of Jesus starts with an iota.
Jesus. Jesus.
Stupid thing right with me. Yeah. It would be Jesus, not Jesus. It'd be Jesus. Jesus.
So that, what are those at the I or the iota?
Yeah, iota,
So the, basically what do we got? Iota,
eta.
and that's kind of like the in,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, and the next one I didn't make very well. It's basically an O with a little line that comes out from the top of it, and that's a sigma.
Sigma,
And then this is supposed to be basically an O, an omicron. Then the next one basically looks like a U. It's supposed to be an upsilon. And then the final one is the end form of sigma. We will learn about that though.
Okay.
But yes, the main point there is if it is a Hebrew name, it will sound like a Y instead.
Okay, and that's the white.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that only occurs with Hebrew names though. Yeah, so Jerusalem isn't Jerusalem, it's Jerusalem.
I've heard that before.
All right. But the good news is that actually making the iota is really simple because it's just a little line with a little tail. And that's all you have to worry about.
The million eye.
Yep. There is no doubt on it. Yay. All right, so iota is long and complicated. The other ones, though, are fortunately much simpler. Yeah. Kappa sounds just like the K in kitchen, and it's pretty much written like a lowercase k. There's really nothing fancy to it. Lambda sounds like a lowercase l, like in law. And it's a little bit weird to write. The lowercase form is kind of a little curly with a stick to hold it up.
Okay, cool.
Yep. And that's lambda. Then mu has the M sound like in mother, so mu. And it's a little weird to write, but it's not too bad. You have a tail, and then a part that comes off of it. So it's basically a U with a forward tail. that dips below the line. All right. And then we get to sing again. Iota, kappa, lambda, mu.
Iota, kappa, lambda, mu.
Iota, kappa, lambda, mu.
Iota, kappa, lambda, mu.
Iota, kappa, lambda, mu. Iota, kappa, lambda, mu.
Once you learn that AW, there's a whole phonics thing on AW, AU. There's something else in English that helps you.
Right, and then I like the skip J's because you can create an English word with just those alone. I don't have to borrow any from the earlier sets. So we have down at the bottom here, mu, iota, lambda, kappa. Any idea what English word that is trying to transliterate?
Milk.
Milk, yeah. M-I-L-K. Milk. That one's pretty straightforward. I like that one. Yeah. Once you get past iota, the rest of it's pretty decent, but iota is weird.
Is that like Yoda?
Not Yoda.
Sorry. Iota.
Iota.
Brains, guys. Iota.
All right, are we ready to move on to the next one?
I just want to imprint. Okay, there we go. I have to do that.
All right, the next one, the group is called the insert X's because it inserts the X sound into the normal break. Normally be LMNOP, but instead of NOP, it's NXOP. It inserts an X sound into the middle of it. This one right here, it's an X sound. It's normally NOP in English, but they insert an X sound into it.
NXOP.
Yep, NXOP.
NXOP. NXOP.
But of course they're not called NX and O and P.
Yeah.
Well, but yeah, so moving from there, the first one is new. And it sounds like the N in the word new. Go figure.
Moo and new.
Yeah, new and new. Yeah. And the lowercase form looks exactly like a V.
Okay.
There is no V in Greek. That's because it has an N sound instead. New. Yep. Now the one that comes after that is the one that has the insert X sound, and it throws kind of everything off. And it
Xi.
Xi. Yep.
Xi.
Xi.
Kasi.
No, Xi.
Kasi.
Xi.
Xi.
Kasi.
No.
Xi. One sound. Xi.
You know how hard it is to make one sound?
It is hard.
Kasi.
There you go.
Shoot.
Yeah. If you get mad at it enough, you'll eventually be able to make one sound.
That's a profane. Oh yeah, never mind. That's a profane word.
It's like with quick. We don't quick. We don't say quick. We say quick.
Yeah.
So it's what?
Kasi.
Xi. Xi.
Xi.
Kasi.
Xi.
Hang on, you're getting-
Everybody's over there hawking a loogie on that one, yep. This one is an important one to kind of memorize in its own category because this is one of the double consonants. This is actually, technically speaking, kappa and sigma put together. And in certain words, you'll actually have to separate the two out.
Okay. Say that again.
This is Xi is kappa and sigma put together. And in certain words, when you're pronouncing them, you'll have to separate that kappa and sigma.
Okay, so.
Okay, so this is a double consonant. It's made up of two different consonants put together, and in some words, you'll have to separate it out. But it sounds just like the X in axiom.
Okay, so X and axiom. Okay, and the little circle with the zoop on it, that's the
That's sigma.
sigma.
We'll learn about that in a second.
Okay.
But the main thing to remember right now is that it's actually a double consonant, which means in some words you'll have to split it into its parts.
It is a double consonant that you, okay, let me, okay, you may have to do what?
You may have to split it into its two sub-consonants. Not continents, consonants. Okay, and I'm actually much more formal about this than some people are. Some people just say, pronounce it any which way. It's like, that doesn't really help anyone.
Sub-consonants, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually kappa and sigma together.
would make sense. You'd have to do like the wings.
Mhm.
How do you spell consonants?
Right down the paper.
Oh,
After
duh.
double consonant, yeah.
Hey, I spelled it right.
There you go.
Woohoo!
Woo, yes, awesome. All right, so nu xi, which is hard to pronounce. You gotta really get your, twist your mouth into that one. But the next one isn't too bad. It's omicron, and it actually sounds just like the alpha. Same sound.
Omicron.
Omicron, alpha.
Not.
Yeah, sounds like the O and not.
Nuxi Omicron.
Nuxi, omicron.
Nuxi Omicron.
Yep. And it is basically just a lowercase o. There's really nothing special about it.
Little O, Omicron.
Yep.
Okay.
Nothing too fancy at all about that one. All right, and then the last one, every person who has ever taught math will completely mess this up, or everyone who's ever learned math will completely mess this up. Because when you look at it,
I'm looking at that.
you're thinking that it's what?
It's a pi signal.
It's not pi.
It's P. It's the letter P.
Uh-huh.
And it's pronounced that way too. It's P.
If you look it up on Google, they'll tell you that.
They'll say it's pi because they use the modern Greek pronunciation.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Yeah, we're using Erasmian Koine Greek.
okay.
So we're doing New Testament Greek. It's not the same as modern Greek. So this one, you can actually look at it, and it's the exact same that it would be in English. It's P. It just looks different.
Pi.
Yeah, not pi. It's
That's
P.
P-I, right? In that, or
Yes.
is it? Yes.
Yeah, well, it would in Greek. It would be, if you were to write out the name, it would be the P iota. But remember what happens with the iota when it's at the end of a word.
It's a Y sound.
No,
it's
that's with
the
Hebrew.
other one.
It becomes the long E sound. So it's P.
P. Oh,
Yep.
okay. So,
All right. And then, of course, to write it, it's basically a kind of a tilted over bar, one straight bar, and then one with a tail.
okay. One straight bar. Starting with a curved little on the top. Okay.
Not too bad. And it sounds just like regular old P, like the P in peach. So we get to sing again. Nu, xi, omicron, P.
New C, Omicron P.
Nu, xi, omicron, P.
Omicron P.
See.
Omicron P.
Nu, xi, omicron, P.
Music
Omicron P.
this one.
Oh, Dave will strike another one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Give us a C, Dave.
Yeah, this one's not too bad. The insert X's is a lot easier to sing than the other ones. All right, then some fun words to pronounce. First one is nu, eta, P. Nu, eta, P. N, a, p. N, a, p.
Is it nape or nap?
Eta, is that a long A sound or not?
Let me go back and look. Hang on. You got the little N thing? A. Eta.
Yep, eta.
So.
Should be nape.
Nape.
So, like the nape of your neck?
Uh-huh. You know, what you want to do with some of those students that don't behave so well, you just...
Yes, just the little hairs right here.
John's got a rat tail, and that was wonderful.
There is a little boy in the fourth grade classroom that's got this, it's about yay long.
Yeah.
Oh, I just.
I know, John had the little rat tail that we braided, and it was wonderful. It stopped him dead in his tracks.
Yeah, my hairstyle did change when I got older, you noticed.
Luckily, you're better.
True.
Okay, so.
All right, and then the next one is Omicron Xi.
Ox.
Too easy.
That
Okay,
was
yep.
too easy.
Yep, ox.
We
Ox.
love easy once in a while, John.
I know.
Yeah.
Someone paid me to put that one in there.
So who made you? Who made you?
No one.
You know that fifth principle?
All right. Then the after Q's is the next set. And these are because this is basically the same as it would be in English for the ones that come after Q in English. So after Q, we have RSTU. Except they don't say RSTU, but it's the same sounds. Yeah, the after Q's. The first one is rho, with a long O sound.
But
Rho.
is there a Q in Greek?
There is no Q in Greek.
So that's.
It's after Q. There is no Q.
Okay, so.
So the first one is rho, and this always messes people up because they think it's P. It's not P. It's a rho, and it has the R sound like in rod. But when you go to write it, it's a lowercase b.
Just a little brown.
I did have a P in my first bonus word, just so you know.
There you go. Yeah, but you pronounce it like an R.
Okay.
So, ro. Ro. And this always messes me up because I will, after I get done reading something in Greek for a while, I'll go to reading something in English and I'll start trying to pronounce all the P's like R's. It doesn't work, by the way. It's a good way to confuse. Yeah, exactly.
Change boxes.
Yep. All right. But as far as sound is concerned, it's a simple sound. You know, we all know it. It's the R sound. Bruh. Rod. Rod.
Yeah. But for pronouncing the letter, it's ro.
Yeah,
Right.
ro, with a long O sound. Ro. Ro. Like row, row, row your boat gently down the stream.
Ro. No. Ro.
All right. The next one, sigma, is kind of a weird one. In your modern text, which you guys have, the capital form will look like a stretched out capital E. In the ancient form, it looked like a capital C, which we actually still have in English today. We'll have C's that sound like S's. Like in the word conscience, for example, the final C and the middle C have an S sound. Conscience. Conscience. That actually comes from the ancient sigma.
Oh.
Yeah. It looks like a C, but it's actually an S sound.
Yeah, because ancient is followed by an I in English. C makes an S sound.
Mhm.
Ancient.
Ancient. Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so either a stretched out E or a capital C for the capital, or if you're talking about the lower cases, there's two different lower cases for sigma. And this is actually common with a lot of ancient languages where they'd have different forms of the letter depending on where it was in the word. If it's at the beginning or the middle of the word, it is an O with a little line that comes out from it.
Okay.
But at the end of it, it basically looks like a C with a little tail. And that is the end form, and that's what this note is about right here.
Okay.
So if it looks like a C with a tail, that is the end form. So to write it out, we'll either have O with a little tail at the top, or we'll have a C with a little tail.
Okay, so the O at the top, that one is start or middle.
Start or middle,
Okay.
and then the one that's a C with a tail, that will occur at the end of a word. It's the same sound, it's still sigma, it still sounds like the S in study, but they write it differently depending on where it shows up in the word.
Boy, that's kind of like reading my Matthew's Bible.
Yeah, the Old English did that as well. They'll change which one's which depending on where it is.
They are, yeah.
So, rho, sigma, and then the next one is tau. And it's fairly normal. It sounds like the T in talk. It's a normal T sound. So it's a T, but it's tau.
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 So it's more like a W sound than a U
An
sound.
L, like ouch.
Yeah, like ouch. Yeah, like sauerkraut. Ow, sow, tau. Sauerkraut. Tau. And making it is pretty straightforward. Ah, you stupid thing. That's not what I wanted. So one little curly and then another little curly down.
Rho, sigma, tau.
Yeah, rho, sigma, tau. Now the next one is one that the Biblical Greek, a compact guide, gets completely wrong when it comes to its capital form. Biblical Greek, a compact guide, when it comes to upsilon, will say that the capital upsilon is a U. It is not. It is a capital Y. You look at the ancient manuscripts, you look at any of the modern versions, it will be a capital Y.
Upsilon.
Yep, upsilon.
In upsilon, it says it's a U, so let's change it to a
Y.
Y.
Yeah. Yeah, this was one of the things where I was reading through the Biblical
So that
Greek
really
compact
should be a
guide.
Y?
And yeah, the
Oh,
capital.
in the book.
Yeah, the
The
capital
capital Y.
U in Biblical Greek, a compact guide, should be a capital Y. You can look through your Greek text as long as you want, and you will never find a capital U in it. I guarantee it. But you will find capital Ys.
Is that a typo?
That's a
or is-
typo.
Okay.
Got it.
Yeah, that's a
They
typo.
should have had someone proofreading that, huh?
Yeah.
Well, we did.
Yeah.
And then also in Biblical Greek, a compact guide, and other resources that Mounts has, he'll say that this is the German Ablaut U sound, which doesn't help anyone because nobody speaks German here, so we don't know what the ablaut U in German sounds like. If you wanted to be real technical about it, it would be Upsilon. 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 But nobody talks like that, so you can just pronounce it as U, like yuck. Upsilon.
Upsilon. So upsilon is fine. So like two O's, like.
Not quite two O's.
Okay.
It has more of a U sound in it. Yeah.
Okay.
Jewelry, pew.
Yeah. U.
Sounds like
U.
that.
Yeah.
It'd be like upsilon?
Not a long U sound though.
Ooh. Take off the
Okay,
Y.
say it again.
Upsilon.
Upsilon.
Are you putting a Y in front of it?
No.
Okay, so it's
Upsilon.
No, I put
Upsilon.
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 Like two O's together.
Kind of, but not quite. It's not oo, it's ew.
Ew. Ew. Like,
Kind of.
like ick.
Like ick ew, yeah.
Ew.
Yeah. Ew yuck.
Okay. Ew.
I'll
Duh.
bet
Okay.
I'll
Yeah.
bet those cats of mine would be responding to that.
Upsilon.
Trying
Yeah, Upsilon.
here. Give it an all perspective.
Alright. Making the lowercase form though is pretty simple. It is a U, but it doesn't have a tail.
It's kind of like a funny bee. Kind of like a cutie bee.
Well, it depends on the font that you have it in. Some of them have it more stylized than others. But it's basically U set. As long as you have a basic lowercase U with no tail, you'll be fine.
Okay, so you could just. Oh, okay, like you did there.
Yep. Alright, now we get to sing again.
Oh.
Rho, sigma, tau, upsilon.
Rho, sigma, tau, upsilon.
Rho, sigma, tau, upsilon.
Rho, sigma, tau, upsilon.
Perfect. We'll form that trio yet.
Yes.
Okay.
Alright, now on the first word to pronounce, I had to separate the vowels out because otherwise they would form a diphthong. And I didn't want you to pronounce it that way because we don't know the diphthongs yet.
Okay.
So this is actually going to be two syllables.
Okay.
So we have lambda, upsilon, iota. Lambda, upsilon, iota. And it's going to be two syllables because I don't want the diphthong in there. So the first two would be l, u, and then the iota is at the end of the word, so it's going to be the long form. So it's l, u, e, l, u, e.
Louis.
Louis.
They made a song there when they played that thing. They had one station that played nothing but Louis.
And Mac is now having horrible flashbacks.
Oh, okay, I need to get this.
The V is a U sound. That little V is right there. U, lu. And you said that at the end was a
Iota. And so that is, since it's at the end, it's the long sound for iota. So E. Louis.
oh, it is that little V right there. It's at the time. Okay, so
Yeah.
it's at the end, so it's
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and the upside down V looking thing is the capital lambda. Because it's a name, so it has to have a capital.
I'm still trying to find the E.
It's little short I thing. I mean, it looks like
Yeah,
an I.
iota, yeah.
Iota. It's at the end of the word, so it's
The long form.
the long form.
Yep.
Louis after the F. Okay.
Yeah. Louis.
Okay.
Right, the next word is a little bit easier. More letters, but a little bit easier. You have sigma, the beginning middle form of sigma, because it's at the beginning of the word. Tau, alpha, and that looks like a P, but it's really rho. And then the end form of sigma. So st, a, r, sa.
Stars.
Stars?
Stars. Yep. Stars.
Why couldn't it have just been, because at the end of a word? If it's the same S sound.
Yeah, they have a
since it's
different
at
form for the end.
End of the word, it has to be something.
It has to be the C with the little tail.
Get that?
I got it.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Rho, sigma, tau, upsilon.
Rho, sigma, tau, upsilon. Rho, sigma, tau, upsilon.
All right, good news. There's only one set left. We're almost there, people. Almost there. The E omegas. E omegas.
E.
Yep, the E omegas. And that's because the first three all end with the long E sound. E omegas. And it's omegas, not agas.
Me.
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 Megas.
Not a long A sound.
Not a long A sound.
Megas.
Yeah.
Like
Those are good vitamins for you. Omegas are good for you.
There you go. All right, last 4 letters. Home stretch. We're coming around the bend.
Fee. Phone.
Fee
Oh,
as in phone.
Fee.
Fee as in phone. And it is always transliterated PH. It sounds like an F, but it's always transliterated PH, which bugs the snot out of me because that's not how most people think of the F sound, but that's how they transliterate it. So it's the transliterated PH, but it has an F sound.
Okay. Like most PHs are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's phone. Yeah. So, yeah. Fee. Fee like in phone. And making the lowercase form is pretty simple. Make an O, put a line through it, you're good. And that's a vertical line, I should say. Horizontal line, that's theta. Vertical line is phi.
True. Watch those lines. Fiji.
No,
Huh?
no,
Oh, this one?
nope.
Lock.
Oh, there we
Yeah.
go. Okay.
Yeah, this is another one that confuses people because of how it's transliterated. It's transliterated CH, it does not sound like a normal CH.
Okay.
It's basically a hard C sound. K. So it's key.
I was sounding it like.
I like it. Fiji.
Fee, key. Fee, key. Yeah. Hard C sound. So it's like the CH in lock, like Loch Ness Monster. So you have to be Scottish when you say it. Lock. Key.
Or how about like lock, L-O-C-K?
Yeah.
But that's not how it's transliterated. It's transliterated CH.
Okay.
Can I say sounds like L-O-C-K?
Yeah. For example, the English word Christ we get from the Greek word Christos, which has this letter in it. But we don't say Tristos. We say Christ. We don't say Trist.
Yeah.
We don't have the CH in there.
There we go.
We don't. We pronounce it with like more or less a regular C sound. We transliterate it with the H, but that doesn't mean we pronounce it that way. And making it is fairly simple. You have one little curl and then a straight.
That's kind of like a crucifix, more or less.
Instead of skis stood up together.
All right. Yes.
Trying to maintain my composure
I'm sorry.
over here.
You're doing well, Tori. You're doing well.
All right. Next letter, Psi.
See.
And it sounds like the PS in lips. Psi. And this is another one of those double consonants that we have to look out for. It is basically P and sigma put together. In some words, we'll have to separate those two. To make it, though, you basically make a little valley, then you divide the valley in half. Psi.
Looks like Tritons.
Triton's pitchfork,
Yes.
yep.
There you go.
All right. So, phi, ki, psi, omega.
Oh, there's Omega.
And the omega sounds like the O in tone. It's a long O sound. And it is always a long O sound. So it's not like iota, which can be long or short depending on a bunch of different things. Omega is pretty straightforward. And making it is kind of like making a W that almost closes at the top.
Okay. Uh-oh. Mine looks more like butt cheeks.
I'm glad that we are a bunch of sanctified people here.
There.
See, this is why I don't like to teach the Greek alphabet.
These still both. Anyways, okay. Oh my god.
All right, get to sing again. Phi, ki, psi, omega. Phi, Chi, Psi, Omega.
Phi, Chi, Psi, Omega. There's our song, look at 6 verses.
There you go. Now we get to pronounce the words. The first one is Phi, Omega, Nu. Phi, Omega, Nu. F, O, N. F, O, N.
Oh. Because Omega is a long O.
Yep, Omega is a long O sound, always. F-own. F-own.
Go back over these. Oh, yeah.
Alright, next one.
Is our
Chi, Rho, Omicron, Psi. Chi, Rho, Omicron, Psi. K, Ra, P, S. K, Ra, A, Ps.
Crops.
Crops. Crops.
We're going to start having Greek inflections on our English words.
Yes, you will.
Crops.
All right, do we have our phone and crops in there?
yes, and the phone and crops.
Yay.
Because phone and crops go together.
Exactly. I mean, it's just naturally rolls right out there.
Yes.
All right, now to review. Let's see if we can fill in the missing letters here. So for the first, or the primaries, we have alpha, beta. Who remembers what comes next?
Gamma. Gamma.
Gamma.
Gamma.
Gamma.
Gamma.
Gamma.
Alpha, beta, gamma, delta.
And it's got a little
We have to write the letter.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Alpha, beta, gamma, delta.
Why, baby? It's like those little things that fall off those little trees and the little windmills when they come down.
Don't think that's quite where that came from, but hey, anything's possible, I suppose.
Gamma.
And then we have epsilon, zeta, eta,
Theta.
theta,
Theta.
theta.
Wait.
Epsilon, zeta, eta, theta.
Theta.
Epsilon.
Stretched out O, one in that direction.
Theta.
Okay, Mac, hang in there.
Theta. Epsilon.
So alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta, iota,
X.
nope,
Key.
kappa.
Kappa.
Oh, they're all looking at the wrong one.
Yep.
Oops.
Iota, kappa, lambda, mu.
Where's this little?
Just a second. Or I'm
Iota.
sorry, the little K.
Yeah,
Okay.
kappa. There it is.
Nu,
Kappa. Nu. Nu.
Yeah.
yep, xi,
I see what we're doing now. Now I know what we're doing.
Wait a minute, that's a sigma.
Hey, wait a minute.
Okay.
Oh, I'm
I
completely.
went the wrong direction
I did
or
too.
something.
Yes.
So this is
Okay, L.
nu, xi.
omicron, p. Yep,
Okay.
nu, xi, omicron, p.
Okay, we're going down or across?
It goes across.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so where's the V go?
And we have rho, sigma, tau, upsilon. Upsilon.
Omicron, P. Then we've got
G.
Rho, sigma, tau,
rho, sigma, tau.
upsilon. Phi, chi,
V, key. V, key. V, key, C.
psi, omega.
Okay, I don't know what I've done, I like really tripped out. Okay.
All right, now we get to sing again. This time we have the whole alphabet. Al-
Alpha, beta, gamma,
Gamma.
gamma,
Alpha, beta, gamma, delta,
Alpha, beta, gamma, delta,
epsilon, zeta, eta, theta,
Epsilon, zeta, eta, theta.
Iota, kappa, lambda, mu.
Iota, kappa, lambda, mu.
Nu, xi, omicron, pi.
Nu, xi, omicron, p.
Rho, sigma, tau, upsilon.
Rho, sigma, tau, upsilon.
Phi, chi, psi, omega.
Psi, omega. Phi. Why didn't I write these
Phi.
in the right order, huh? I got all
Phi.
screwed up writing them down.
Xi.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Phi, chi, psi,
Okay.
omega.
Ki, Psi, Omega. Phi, Ki, Psi, Omega. Ki, Psi, Omega. I will have to know.
Yeah. So, alpha, beta, gamma, delta.
Alpha, beta, gamma, delta.
Epsilon, zeta, eta, theta.
Epsilon, zeta, eta, theta.
Iota, kappa, lambda, mu.
Iota, kappa, lambda, lambda.
Nu, xi, omicron, pi.
Nu, xi, omicron, p.
Rho, sigma, tau, upsilon.
Rho, sigma, tau, upsilon.
Phi, chi, psi, omega.
Phi, chi, psi, omega. Omega.
And that's the alphabets.
Okay, let me keep that up there for just a second. We'll make sure I did it right because I got all kinds of. Okay, we're good now. We're good now.
There you go. 8 slides just for the alphabet.
Okay.
The good news is the rest of it isn't nearly that long. Fun times, people, fun times. But you got through it. You're on the other side of it.
Good.
The hard part is done. All right, ready for the next slide, folks?
Sure.
No, I'm looking
What?
at that going, I don't want to learn that yet.
All right, so A, Omicron with a forward apostrophe above it is pronounced ha instead of ah. Omicron is normally Omicron, but if it has a forward apostrophe above it, like we get right here, it's ha.
Ha.
Yeah.
Oh, ha.
So instead of ah, it's ha. The forward apostrophe above the vowel denotes the presence of an invisible H.
Okay.
Forward apostrophe above a vowel sound tells you that there's an invisible H there. So Greek has technically 24 letters, but it has an H sound in there, but it's done with a forward apostrophe instead of an actual letter.
Okay, so it's invisible, but you say it, basically.
Yep.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So if there's a forward apostrophe, you pronounce it with an H in front of
I
it.
forgot to put a period at the end of your sentence.
Actually, it wasn't a proper sentence. It didn't start with a capital either.
That's true too. I was like, maybe so.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Tricky, that one. All right. So let's try to pronounce the words that are underneath. Normally, the first word there would be amartia, but it has a forward apostrophe, so it's hamartia.
Ha. Martia.
Yeah. And this is the word from which we get hamartiology, which no one knows what that is, but
No.
in case you're wondering, that's where it comes from.
What is homophobia?
Hamartia is what we usually translate as sin. It technically means forfeiture or departure, but we usually translate it as sin. That's the English word that we know it by.
That's
I
the
like it simple.
simple.
Yeah.
Simple sin.
Like
Like sin is simple, but yeah, anyways, the word. So,
The next word would normally be uper, but it has a forward apostrophe above the first one, so it's hooper. Hooper, from which we get the English word hyper.
Oh.
which is HY, right?
Yep. But in Greek it's upsilon, so hooper. Hooper, hooper, hooper.
I call Anthony Hooper tomorrow, so he says.
He look at you. All right. Next one is pretty simple to fill in. In the chart there, just fill in punctuation and meaning. The rest of it is given to you.
So what?
So on C, there will be 2 blanks at the top. Fill in punctuation, fill in
Like
meaning.
it already gave those things.
Yeah, it gives everything else. It just doesn't give you what each one is. All right. In Greek, there are 4 main punctuation marks. The first two are pretty simple. There is the Greek comma, which is the same as the English comma, which makes that all nice and neat. There's also the Greek period. So Greek comma, Greek period. The Greek period is the same as the English period. Greek comma is the same as the English comma. Those two are great. The next two mess things up.
Yeah, they do.
There is the Greek raised dot, which is actually a semicolon. And it's also used to introduce direct speech as well. We would normally do comma and then quotation marks. They'll do a raised dot for that as well.
Huh.
So semicolon, and you can also think of it as quotation marks.
It could be a semicolon or a quotation mark?
Sometimes it's used to introduce direct speech. And then this one is one that always messes with people, and it's so fun to put on a quiz. Intent.
That looks like a semicolon.
The Greek semicolon
Is it a question?
is a question mark.
What is their problem?
Yeah, the diacritics don't mean the same thing. The punctuation's not the same. It's a different language, really.
Really? Gosh.
Like I said, speaking English would have been a lot easier for them.
They didn't know what they were missing, right?
That's right.
Actually, in the days of Jesus, there was no punctuation marks whatsoever. This is something that Greeks did afterwards to make it easier to read.
Comma, period,
Raised dot.
that's a semicolon.
Yeah, but it actually means question mark. And the raised dot is actually a semicolon. Yeah.
Dot is semicolon.
Console the equal for the marks.
I know, serious. See, we could
Yeah, they didn't ask us first. Yeah, and this is something that bothers so many students, especially in America, as they start learning, punctuation marks and diacritic marks in other languages. It's like nothing is the same. You're right, it's not. Not at all.
It's not the same. It's,
Different language, yeah.
yeah.
All right, and that was the end of that. We're on to diphthongs now.
Short and sweet.
Yep.
Diphthongs.
Yep. Diphthongs, yes.
I
Diphthongs.
get in trouble at school when I call them diphthongs.
I do too.
Yeah.
First grade teacher tells me it's a diphthong.
Diphthongs, yeah, I know. I was educated in America, so I'm good.
No, like, yeah, it'll do that America thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's Americans, not Americans.
Okay. There are a number of Greek diphthongs. I've given them all to you here. It's interesting. But the main thing is, can you sound it out? So a lot of them are actually pretty similar to some diphthongs that we have in English, fortunately. So alpha iota, for example, sounds like the I sound in aisle. And what follows, for A, there is a Greek word that has that diphthong in it. So any guesses on what that Greek word would be?
I wrote down A. Oh, no, that's a different word.
Yeah, these are Greek words, not English words this
I
time.
know when I went through those and tried to put them in pronunciation, I could understand. Okay.
Which is actually, because it's an and, because it would be.
That's a lot to say.
Kappa, alpha,
Iota.
And so how would it sound? How would we sound it out?
Koi.
Nope. It sounds like the I in aisle, so it's kai.
Kai.
Oh.
Kai. So K with a long I sound. Kai.
Oh, because you go back to the actual sound of the two together.
Mhm.
Okay, get it, okay.
Yeah, so it's not
We were
ka-I.
separating them.
Yeah, this is a diphthong, so those two vowels get pronounced together as I. So it's kai. Kai. And then epsilon iota sounds like the A in 8. So the Greek word here would be a-kon. A-kon. A-kon.
I left up to the A and K.
A-kon.
And so what does akon mean? What does kai mean and what does akon mean?
Kai is basically the Greek word for and. And then akon is what translates into the English icon, image. And then omicron iota sounds like the oi in oil. So this Greek word is oikos. 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 And it basically means house.
Autos. I got the next one.
Oh,
All right, and then alpha upsilon sounds like the ow in sauerkraut. Ow. So this next word is autos. Autos.
That's almost right.
Autos. And autos is a pronoun that can mean lots of different things, but in this case we'll basically say that it means he. But it can mean a lot more than that. But for right now, as a placeholder, we'll just say it means he.
Okay.
Yep. And then omicron upsilon sounds like the oo in soup. Soup. Oo. And that actually is a Greek word by itself, omicron upsilon.
Really?
Oo.
Ooh.
Yeah. It basically means not. Ooh. Right. And then upsilon iota together have a wee sound, like in sweet. Yeah. Now, this next word here has a forward apostrophe, and you'll notice that that forward apostrophe is on the second vowel. That's because those two vowels go together. They form a diphthong. And so the forward apostrophe will move back to the last vowel in the diphthong. Yep. So we have to have an H in there because there's a forward apostrophe and it has a diphthong, so it's huios. Huios. And it basically means, it can mean lots of different things, but it basically means sun.
Oh, this next one's long.
Yeah, but it's not too bad. However, I always get confused with this one because there's actually two different combinations that make the same sound. I always forget about the eta upsilon. The epsilon upsilon is easy for me to remember because it shows up all the time in Greek. The eta upsilon, though, almost never does, and so when it does show up, I always wind up mispronouncing it as two different vowels when it should be one vowel sound. And it basically has a long U sound like in feud. So it's U. So this word here is euangelion. Now you might wonder why there's this N here, and that is because you have double gamma. If you have two gammas together, the first one has an N sound. So it's euangelion.
Okay, so the two wifeys.
Two gammas next to each
Two
other.
gammas
If
make it-
gamma is followed by gamma, it sounds like N.
Two gammas, right?
Yep, if you have two gammas together, the first one will have an N sound. The second one, the regular gamma sound, the regular G sound.
So two guns together. There's that angel. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Euangelion is the Greek word for gospel.
Okay, two gammas together.
The first one's N, second one stays the same.
Okay, gammas together sound like N, right?
The first one will sound like N.
Okay.
The things you never thought you would ever learn.
Yeah.
Now you know what happens when two gammas are together.
Man. Phew, nothing but trouble.
Pretty much.
Okay, and that you said it was gospel?
Yeah, euangelion is gospel. And like I said, in Greek, long words are fairly normal.
Yeah.
This is more or less a normal word. Yeah, the other ones that I gave you were nice and short because it's similar to English, but yeah, in Greek, a lot of them are going to be long. It's just the way it is. Euangelion.
Okay.
All right, Greek syllabification. Fun stuff. In Greek,
Next week I need you to help me.
say what?
So you can't go to work next week, I need you to help me.
You will survive, I promise.
I just, yeah.
All right. In Greek, distinct vowel sounds are the center of different syllables, which is pretty much the same in English. Every syllable is centered around a vowel sound. And these vowel sounds go with the consonant which precedes them, which is in front of them, and not the consonant which follows them, unless one of these three exceptions apply.
Okay.
And you picked all this up on your own?
Distinct vowel sound.
It was a long process.
Yes, it was the center of, okay. Distinct vowel sounds are the center of different syllables.
So basically what this first part is saying is that the vowel always wants to go with the consonant in front of it. That's basically what that means. Vowel wants to go with what's in front of it. But there are three exceptions.
Okay, just a second, I forget to go to, okay. Vowel.
Wants to go with what's in front of it.
Okay, this is where my dyslexia gets me, okay.
Let's go with the consonant I just left.
The consonant to the left, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay, that's where I'm, because the other one doesn't make sense, because I've got it switched in my head. Thank you. Okay.
All right, so three exceptions. It will usually go with the vowel in front of it, but it can go with the vowel that's after it if that final consonant is a final letter. So it wants to go with the consonant in front, but it will go with the consonant at the end if that consonant is the final letter of the word. Which kind of makes sense because otherwise you have this consonant hanging there with no vowel, which doesn't work.
No.
All right, so if it's a final letter, it will go with the last vowel. Another exception, if there is another consonant after the consonant, so if you have vowel and then consonant, consonant, the vowel will pick up the first consonant.
Okay. Vowel,
BCC.
consonant. Or there's no consonant after the following consonant.
So there's a following consonant, there's another one that's after it. It'll pick up the first one.
It'll pick up the first consonant.
That's why he's got the division between two consonants.
Oh, there we go. I
Yeah. So if you have multiple consonants that come afterwards, it picks up the first one.
When we're separating, okay, so,
Yeah.
okay, good, there we go, okay.
And then last but not least, if you have either of the double consonants, xi or psi, you have to separate out the sigma. Because xi, yeah, pretend that's a kappa, kappa sigma, and then psi is p sigma, and you'll just divide those consonants.
The next one is the one that you're, which the next one, okay.
Yeah.
The following consonant is- Okay. I need to learn my Greek alphabet. For me, these to make complete sense.
You're okay. Examples help. So let's get to the examples, because otherwise you're just looking at a bunch of words on a page, which is kind of what you're doing anyways, but you know. All right, so examples. Our first word there, E, let's go through and find the vowels first, because they're going to form the centers of our syllables. And remember, it's technically vowel sounds, not just vowels, but vowel sounds, so that includes the diphthongs too. So if it's a diphthong, that counts as a vowel sound together. So first word here, do we have any diphthongs to worry about?
No. What are the diphthongs?
The diphthongs are, we just went over them.
AY. I don't see a
Yeah.
diphthong.
No, there are no diphthongs in it. We just have
See awful?
Awful.
Or alpha? Alpha?
yeah, alpha, omicron, alpha, omega. Okay, so those are all of our vowel sounds. And we're going to go through and we're going to test each one and see which consonants it goes with.
Omega.
That's Omicron, not Omega. Or unless you're talking about the last one.
Omega, and then what was the last one?
So Alpha, Omicron, Alpha, Omega.
Alpha, Omicron, Alpha, Omega. Okay. So those are
your vowels. Those are going to form the centers of your syllables. Now we need to figure out what consonants these vowels go with. The alpha does not have any consonant in front of it, right?
How come you didn't circle the little, oh, we just did the vowels. Gotcha.
You just did the vowels, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just did the vowels. All right, so the first vowel there, the alpha,
It stands by itself. So
it is going to stand by itself unless the following consonant is the last consonant of the word. Is the gamma the last consonant of the word?
no.
No, okay. Is that consonant that's after it followed by another consonant immediately? Is it gamma and then some other consonant?
No.
No. Okay, so that one doesn't apply. Is gamma one of the double consonants in Greek, either xi or psi?
Let me find it. It's got two, gamma? It's got two M's in the middle of it. Is that what you're talking about?
No, there's only two double consonants in Greek. There's psi and xi.
Oh, those guys.
Yeah. And it's not one of those because it doesn't have the same name.
No, go back to the double consonant. Where are we at with double consonants? Oh, C and
Xi.
where's C? Oh, there we go. Double consonant.
Yeah. It's not one of those, so we don't have to worry about that either.
Okay,
So,
okay,
you're right. Alpha stands by itself.
okay. Alpha sounds okay. Oh, that's later. Okay. Okay, so that stands by itself. So you're putting the line there.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, then the Omicron, we know that it already wants to go with the gamma, right? It always wants to go with the consonant that precedes it, that's in front of it. So that's okay. But what about the consonant that comes after the Omicron, the rho?
It's not the final letter.
It's not a final letter, so we're not going to pick it up because of that.
There's no consonant after it,
So it's not going to pick it up because of that.
and C and C.
Yeah, and it's not xi or psi. It's not one of those, so Omicron is not going to pick it up.
So it's just YO.
It's just going to be gamma Omicron.
Omicron. Oh. Just Omicron, so that one little.
No, gamma Omicron.
Go Omicron.
Yep. Gamma Omicron.
So two right there. Okay.
All right, and then the next alpha, we know it's going to pick up the rho. It picks up the one in front of it, but is it going to pick up these zeta as well?
Well, that's a double consonant, it says on my little paper. Kasi.
Wait
No.
a second. Okay.
That is not.
Oh, it's the wrong curly?
Yep, it's the
Sorry.
wrong curly. Yep.
That's sigma.
Okay, I've got a
No,
little
it's not.
P thingy on mine. Oh, yours is two.
Mhm.
Yeah, you just okay. You
Yeah.
I thought I had a typo.
Nope. Yeah.
Okay, so
That one is right there, yeah? Yeah, it says sigma, right?
No, that is zeta. Yeah, you have rho in front of it, and then you have
Oh,
zeta
there it is.
afterwards.
There's so much of them like. All right, zeta.
Yep, zeta. Is zeta the final letter of the word?
No,
No.
the next
Is
one
it-
is a
Is it?
vowel.
So that's not going to work either. Is it one of the double consonants?
No.
No. So alpha does not pick up the zeta. So it'll be agarazo.
Did you get that?
No.
Bye-bye.
I'm a pure right now.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And so what did you just say? Oh,
He
Agarazo.
did it for us. So
I'm gonna cry.
we have an epsilon, which is a vowel.
All right, next one.
just a second.
Okay, never mind. We'll wait.
I know I'm making that wrong.
Doo-doo,
Oh, it's a
Doo-doo.
thing.
doo-doo, doo-doo. Do-do.
Okay, well, and what is that word?
Agarazo
Agarazo.
means I buy. It is a verb.
Agarazo.
Mhm.
Okay, agarazo.
Right.
Agarazo.
All right. Next word, we look for all the vowel sounds. And remember, diphthongs count as a vowel. But in this one, there are no diphthongs, so it's just
I
the
have an epsilon,
epsilon.
sigma, I have a beta, and
The
a,
last
oh,
one.
here I'm busy. Iota.
Iota is one of the vowels.
And omega. Right?
Yep, and omega. So we have 3 vowel sounds here, so we should have 3 syllables when we're done.
Okay, so.
So we start with a vowel.
Yep. So with the epsilon, it normally wants to go with the consonant in front of it, but there is no consonant in front of it.
Right.
So it can't get it because it's not there.
Right.
And then we go and we check for the vowel after it. Is it going to get that sigma? And we have to ask ourselves first, is the sigma the final letter of the word? No, so it's not going to get it because of that. Is that sigma followed by another consonant?
Yes.
Yes, so it will get the sigma because of that.
So, okay, epsilon, sigma.
Because they're split between the double consonants, right?
Yeah.
It's not a double consonant. It's a consonant followed by a consonant. Double consonant is either xi or xi.
Okay, there we go, that's right. And I need to have help on that double consonant, so remind me.
All right, and then the next vowel is iota. Iota wants to go with the consonant that's in front of it, so it's going to pick up the theta. And then we would ask, does it go with the consonant that's after it? But there is no consonant that's after it. It's a vowel that's after it, so it's going to get split there. So this is S-the-o. S-the-o. S-the-o.
I'm not home, I just told you. Walk. How much longer?
I'm trying to make this quick.
Question. Walk, you're at the school, for goodness sake.
Really?
Your daughter's at home, call her. I'm busy, I'm at school.
I'm learning stuff.
I'm bothering my mom.
Sorry, my 8 omega still looks like a...
All right, next word, look for the vowel sounds. We have epsilon, alpha, omega. Those are the vowel sounds. And we'll go through and we did like we did before. The vowels always want to pick up the consonants in front of them. That first epsilon, does it have any consonant in front to pick up? No, it's just epsilon. So then we go and we check on the consonant that's after it. The consonant that's after it, is it the final consonant of the word? No. Okay, so it's not going to be that. Is that consonant that comes after it followed by another consonant? No. Is it one of the double consonants?
Yes, it is.
It is a
It
double.
Okay,
Yep.
yes.
It is xi, so it will be split right through the consonant. And xi is made up of kappa and sigma, so we're going to split it up.
So you split right there in the middle of the letter because the double consonant, this might answer my question. Okay, good.
Okay. All right, and then the next vowel is alpha. It's going to get part of the xi, and that's just because it always wants to pick up the consonant in front of it. But what about the gamma that comes afterwards? Is it going to pick up that gamma or no? Is that gamma the final consonant of the word?
No.
No. Is that gamma followed by still another consonant?
No.
No. And is that gamma one of the double consonants?
No.
No. So alpha is not going to get it.
So it goes by itself.
Yep. So the gamma is going to go with the omega instead, because the omega is always going to want to pick up the one in front of it. Alpha can't get it because it doesn't meet any of the exceptions, so omega is going to get it instead. So we looked at alpha, picks up the other half of the xi, but the gamma that follows it isn't the last consonant in the word. Gamma isn't followed by any other consonants, and it's not one of the double consonants, so alpha cannot get the gamma.
Okay, there we go. Got it.
So, hexago, hexago. And the kappa sigma is the same thing as the xi. It's just been split apart so that we can pronounce it. And it means I lead out, and it's also where we get the word exodus from. Hexago.
Low?
Hexago.
Hexago.
Yeah, gamma.
There we go.
Hexago.
Hexago. What we're saying. I will definitely have to study this. There we go.
Then the next one we have omicron. And then we have iota omicron, and we have to ask ourselves, is that one of the diphthongs or no? Iota omicron.
I don't see it on
No,
the page.
it needs to be backwards.
Yeah, it would have to be backwards if it's one of the diphthongs. So this one is not. So each one of those vowels will be its own separate syllable.
But that one is a double consonant thing.
But we do have a double consonant in there to worry about. Yeah. All right, so we go to the first vowel, the first omicron there, and we say it's always going to pick up the consonant in front of it. Is there any consonant in front of it?
No.
No, so can't do that. What about the consonant that comes after?
This is a double.
It's a double, so we're going to split it right through that double consonant.
You just draw a line through.
Yeah. And C is made up of which two consonants?
K and S.
Nope.
Let me find it.
You're fine.
Kappa Sigma.
No,
That's what I wrote down.
that's C. That was the last one.
Oh, oh.
Okay,
It's-
so that's kind of funny.
I didn't write that down. Oh no.
Ew,
I have the little pi sign.
Yeah, it's
P.
Yep, P and sigma. Yep.
How did I? S. Iota.
And then the iota, it's going to pick up the sigma from the C, because we're going to split that consonant apart. But is the iota going to pick up anything after it?
No. 'cause
There are no consonants after it, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to do.
So you split it right there.
Yep. So this one will be opsias. Opsias. And that is a noun meaning evening. Opsias. So agarazo, estio, hexago, opsias.
That's what I was going to say.
Exactly, right? Rolls right off the tongue.
It rolls right off. Well, it kind of falls out.
Falls out might be a little bit easier with this one.
Square wheel.
I fell off the turnip truck, that's what I.
Okay, so, C is a
Is-
double consonant.
Mhm. And so is C.
C, and then what's the other one?
Xi.
The C.
So Xi and C.
Where's C? Oh, C. Oh, there we go. Okay. There we go.
Yes, see, I'm in school. No worries, I have legs. Indeed, you too.
It's like,
All right. Are we done writing on that one?
yes.
All right. And our final translation task, I'll make this fairly quick. Does anyone want to volunteer to try to pronounce the first word?
Okay, where's my little sheet? I'm sure we'll start. Kappa.
Mm-hmm. Kappa.
Go back here. Okay. Kappa. Alpha.
Alpha.
I didn't write down what letter that was.
Iota.
That's the iota.
Mhm.
I probably should put the letter beside my little thingy here.
Kappa, alpha, iota.
So K, A, E, K. Ah.
And then alpha, iota is one of the diphthongs.
Oh, of course. A-I, I'll, and.
Well, that's what it means, you're right. But what is the word?
Kai.
Kai. Yep. Kai.
K-I.
Yep. Kai.
Kai. So that's pronounced Kai.
Kai. Yep.
The word is just pronounced Kai
Mm-hmm.
because A-I is Kai,
Oh, Kai.
Is a long I sound.
or it's long I,
And then you have the K sound in front of it, so it's
which is
Kai.
Kai.
Kai. Yep.
Kai.
All right, and then the next one,
Oi. Omega. Omicron.
Omicron, right?
Yay.
And then it has the little apostrophe, forward apostrophe on it. So what does that do?
That makes it, I don't know. Aha!
Ha. Yes.
Ha.
So Kai, ha.
Kai ha.
Kai, ha.
Oh, there's a whole bunch of them.
And this one does have a diphthong in it. Epsilon, sorry, yeah, epsilon, upsilon.
Oh. Oh, EU. It's a diphthong.
Okay, so Kai. Ha. Okay, and then that's something.
That's a little curly. This is hard, John.
It is,
This is hard.
but at least you're not alone.
Man.
Okay, so the underline is what?
That is a diphthong.
Diphthong. Okay.
So that was that D thing, wasn't it? It looks like a G, but it's a D.
It's a D, yep. Delta.
So we have D. And the diphthong is EU. EU.
You.
And the backwards J thing was like a T is T.
Yep.
Doot. Doot. And then we have a backwards E. A short E. Doot. Doot. E. Doot. R. R.
Yeah, it's an R sound.
R. And then another omicron.
Mm-hmm.
O. And that thing is an S.
Yep.
Duties? Daughters?
Deuteros. Deuteros.
Deuteros. I'm trying to make an English word out of it.
Yeah, it's not an English word.
I know what she was doing. I thought,
Deuteros.
Deuteros.
Yeah, I did one there.
I hear that.
CJ. I know a CJ.
Ross.
Right?
So Kai ha deuteros.
All
All right, if we were to look up 2779 in the back for Kai, we'll find that it's and. And then the parsing code CJ is what? Do you guys remember by any chance? It's in your chart. CJ.
Oh, CJ.
Comparative.
Conjunction.
Conjunction.
Conjunction. Yep. So it means and it is a conjunction. Fantastic.
Oh, I see. We're going down.
Yes.
Yes. And then the ha, 3836, is the one that we look up in Mounts, and he doesn't give us a very good definition of it. So I will tell you, it is basically that or he, which or who, is, are, was, something like that. That or he, which is.
Or which is. Okay. Or his, right? Or is.
Which is.
Which is, yeah.
And then we go to this thing.
So it'd be that which or he is.
It can either be and that which is, or and he who is. That's why I put the which in parentheses, because it can also be relative who.
Or who, depending.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the is depends on what tense it is. If it's past tense, present tense, whatever.
Okay, is usually present tense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. And then,
That's where you got your masculine.
all right, and then the D period NSM, the D is determiner, N is nominative, S is singular, M is masculine.
Okay, just a second.
All right, and then deuteros, we look up 1311, and we find that it basically means second. Then we look up the parsing code. The A is adjective, and then the NSM is the same. It's nominative, singular, masculine. So what this basically means is, and he, who, stupid thing, who, and this one is actually past tense in its original context. So it's he who was, second. This is from when the Sadducees come up to Jesus and they say, hey, we've got this story to tell you that tells you that the resurrection isn't really going to happen. They say, there was this guy who had 7 brothers, and he died not having any children by his wife, so he left it to his first brother. And he died not having any children, so he left it also to the second, and he who was second. That's where this comes from. And since it's a story that they're telling about something in the past, it's past tense was.
Yes.
But if you don't know the whole story, you don't know if it's past tense or present tense.
Right.
So this is, again, where that whole context thing comes into play.
Okay, and what was the passage that this was from? The
Um,
resurrection one?
Yeah, where the Sadducees are telling Jesus about the guy who had 7 brothers and died without having any kids by his wife. All right, and the good news is that is finally the end. Thank you guys for staying with me on that one.
Oh, yes, sir.
The next lesson will not be nearly as intense. This is easily the most intense lesson in there just because the alphabet is a pain to learn. You will also, you'll notice in your assignment at the end, you will not have any reading to do. I did that intentionally because getting through this lesson is hard enough as it is. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
So yeah, there will not be a reading assignment. There will be some things that you need to work on to get used to the letters and all that kind of thing, and this will have all that will be tough enough. We don't need a reading on top of that, so there's no reading assignment. Okay. All right, so thank you guys for sticking with it. We'll